Hi, my name is Milton Schorr. I'm a writer and an actor, and I recently hitchhiked from the city of Cape Town to Bloemfontein and back to publicize the release of my new novel titled A Man of the Road. A Man of the Road tells the story of Little Mikey, a young boy who grows up on a small town on the west coast of South Africa. And one day, because of calamity, he believes he needs to hitchhike to Johannesburg to save his mother. But publicizing my novel wasn't my only goal. I also wanted to fulfill a promise that I made nearly 20 years ago. When I was in my early 20s, I was driving to Johannesburg and I stopped off in a small town and explored and found myself in a cemetery that was a Boer War memorial. And I found myself standing in front of the grave of an unknown English soldier. And in front of the grave was a wreath. And I decided to borrow that wreath, telling the grave and the soldier that I'm going to return it one day, and in the meantime I'm going to use it as a totem to inspire my writing and keep me on the right track. And I think that track is about saying things that are worth saying. So I set out from Cape Town on a Friday morning, and I was apprehensive. I've hitchhiked a lot in South Africa and it's a violent place. Once I hitchhiked up to Vic Falls, which is 2,500 kilometers up north out of South Africa through Botswana into Zambia and then into Zimbabwe. And my experience that time was, as soon as I crossed the South African border, all this kind of tension just fell away because the countries outside of South Africa are not violent. But South Africa itself is an extremely violent place. And so I was apprehensive setting out, which one always is. I found myself standing on the side of the N1, the main highway that runs through South Africa up to Joburg, worried, wondering who's going to pick me up, will someone pick me up, how will it go, because that's what hitchhiking is about.
Okay, I'm not going to go through the tunnel, brother. Sure. Yeah, I'm going via the mountain.
I met Jerry. Jerry is someone who works in security and he drives often between Cape Town and the small town of Worcester. He loaded me in the car and we went barreling over the mountain listening to hit after hit of Jerry's favorite tunes. I got dropped off in Worcester and I took a long walk and finally reached the petrol station at the end. I was talking to all the truck drivers, asking them for lifts. And I wasn't successful because nowadays all the truck cabs have cameras in them. So I ended up standing outside the petrol station where my friend Wilfred met me. And he showed me exactly how to get a lift by just offering some money on the side of the road. We dropped Wilfred off pretty quickly and then Mdu and I started chatting.
What's your name? Du.
He told me his beautiful story about how he met his wife. We had a great adventure in the middle of the highway, which is just like the adventures in A Man of the Road.
Send it to me, sure.
And finally, Mdu dropped me off in a town called Beaufort West, which is possibly about halfway to Bloemfontein. Then I did my very favorite thing that I love to do when I'm hitchhiking. I slept in the bush.
Lying right next to the highway, not far from the town, not far from houses, not far from a caravan park nearby. And no one knows I'm here. I feel safe. I feel so safe. I feel so right. To me, this is what life should be like. It's just a sense of absolute wonder.
So by this time, I was about 18 hours into the hitch and moving beautifully. I just kept getting lifts. It was amazing being able to offer money, changed everything, because in the past I've stood for over 12 hours in one spot before. Now I never stood longer than sort of 30 minutes.
What do you think? Yeah.
There's nothing like sitting up high in the cab of a truck, relaxing, chilling, because a truck doesn't drive fast, but it's powerful. You are a king of the road when you're sitting up there, you and the driver. And the conversation has a strange pattern, a strange flow.
How long have you been driving?
You connect on something and it takes you up to a climax and you think maybe it's going to end now, but then there's another one and then it goes more and more. But then all of a sudden you run out of things to say and the road and the sound of the tires and the countryside rolling by just takes over again. So you lapse into silence and the wind, hot wind coming through the open window.
Do you think you're going to carry on driving for another 17 years?
I don't think so.
So I've actually reached Springfontein after, 28 hours or so. Which means the main part of this journey is coming to an end, which is actually returning the wreath.
The walk to the graveside was long and tricky because I have a notebook in which I wrote down the precise directions to the grave, but I didn't write down the precise directions to the cemetery. And on Google Maps, there's 2 cemeteries in the town. And I walked, and I walked, and I walked. I wanted to get there before dark. When I was very near where the map said it was, this happened. And this young man told me, no, where I'm going is nowhere. That's where his friend lives, an open veld. But the cemetery is in fact over there, and he pointed it out to me, and I went and looked, and it far in the distance in the middle of nowhere, but you could just see one of the statues beside a tree. And so I went walking. I hit what I think was actually a sewage works, but I'm not quite sure because I don't have a sense of smell. So I'm walking through this place, just being so careful to not touch anything wet and not fall. I'm not quite sure where I am, and the sun is going. But at the same time, there was this incredible feeling of blessedness is the only word for it, because I'd had this wreath for nearly 20 years. Every place of writing I'd ever set up, in every home I'd ever lived in, that wreath had always been there. I'd always looked at it. It was always telling me what I say is important. Not for me, but because we're alive. We don't know how much life we get. And this wreath represents a man who came to this country for reasons I'm sure he didn't quite understand, and lost his one life. He died in this wilderness that I'm trekking through. And that is what a man of the road is about. And so I finally reached the place. I was thinking, there's no way this is right. Of course I've made a mistake. But in my book, it says the row on the left of the angel. And I see an angel. And I know I recognize that angel. And so I consult my notebook and I follow the path down, just as it says. And I consult my notebook and I see the name of a soldier, and I see that exact name on a headstone. And I know I'm in the right place.